My son is being pressured to apologize for rejecting a girl who won't take no for an answer, and now my wife thinks I'm a jerk for supporting him and that our son is growing up to be a jerk too. Posted by you/miserable article 44. This is a throwaway, but this involves some absolute high school drama nonsense that someone my age shouldn't have to deal with, but maybe I'm tripping and missing something. So, here I am. My wife, 41F, and I, 45M, have 2 kids, 17F and 15M. My wife's best friend, 40F, has 2 daughters, 18F and 15F. My wife's best friend moved to our town about 6 years ago. My wife and her best friend have been not so subtly pulling for the 2 15-year-olds to end up together. I find this weird and low-key creepy. About 2 years ago, my wife's best friend's youngest daughter appeared to have developed a crush on our son. My son talked to me about it, and he had zero interest. So, we discussed how to tactfully but firmly let her down. She has approached him again a number of times over the last couple of years, and he has reaffirmed his lack of interest. This past summer, my wife's best friend's oldest daughter turned 18. Her parents went all out for her birthday. It was a whole weekend of festivities and events. One of the events was a couple's dinner for the oldest daughter and all her friends and couples. The younger daughter of my wife's best friend wanted to go to the dinner but didn't have anyone to go with. She asked my son, and he agreed to go, but only as friends and just this one time. So, they went together. After the dinner, the couples all watched 10 Things I Hate About You together. It was my son's first time seeing it, and he commented that he thought the Heath Ledger singing scene was cool. This is important later. My business partner, 44M, throws a huge Halloween party every year, for the last 5 years. All our employees are invited, along with close friends and family. The party requires a costume, and there are prizes for best individual costume, group costume, and couples costume. My wife's best friend and her family are obviously invited every year. This year, the Halloween party is tonight, October 26th. So, let me get to the reason I am here. About a month ago, my son was at school, and coming toward him was my wife's best friend's younger daughter with a whole song and dance routine. She ended it by asking him to be her date for the Halloween party. My son was so frustrated and reiterated, for everyone to hear, that he is not interested in her like that at all. Of course, it being high school, some kids laughed, and she ran off crying. She has been bullied pretty badly because of it. My wife's best friend is livid and thinks our son owes her daughter an apology. My wife agrees and thinks, at a minimum, he needs to defend her against the bullying. My son has said that for 2 years he has told her he is not interested and reiterated it over and over. At this point, he thinks it's kind of harassment toward him, and it is not his role to defend her harassment of him. I agree with my son. My wife and I have had a number of disagreements about it since it happened. Well, things have intensified in the last couple of weeks because another girl, who my wife's best friend's daughter apparently does not like, asked our son to be her date for the party, and he agreed. They are doing a pretty dope couple's costume. This has really pissed off my wife because she thinks he should at least not go to the party with another girl out of respect. I think that is ridiculous. I plan on driving them to the party with me. My wife now does not want to go to the party and is saying I am a jerk and raising our son to be one. So, am I the jerk? Relevant comments. Commenter. Does the girl's father know what is going on regarding the situation? He is not being mentioned in the post. Ops response. The girl's own father agrees with me. He hasn't said it to his wife because he does not want to ruffle feathers in his house, but he fully agrees with me. He has told his own daughter multiple times to leave my son alone. Commenter. I want you to leave the woman who's condoning the harassment of your son, who cares more about her best friend than your son, who cares more about her best friend's daughter than your son, who cares more about your son being with this girl than about his happiness, who thinks your son is a jerk for living his life, who doesn't care about your son's boundaries and wants to punish him for being fed up with the harassment. You've been having a month-long fight about your son's boundaries, where you are respecting them, and she will not. She literally called him a jerk for living his life and called you one for allowing him to do so. Isn't that reason enough to leave? You're an awful dad. Ops response. So, you think it's bad parenting to try and resolve conflicts rather than immediately leaving? Good to know. That approach certainly won't make kids afraid of what might happen if they have a conflict with their parents. I am showing my son that I'm willing to go to the mat for him. Leaving would suggest that I'd rather not be bothered with the problem. It might free me from the conflict, but it does absolutely nothing for him. She is still his mother. In a marriage, with certain exceptions, you don't just get up and walk out the door over fights. She isn't actively harming our son. She had one conversation with him about it, during which he stated his position. I then defended his position, and since then, she and I have been fighting about it alone. He is no longer involved in the conflict, it's between us now. But I'm not going to break up my family that quickly. That would be insane. Commenter. Not the jerk. However, if it were my son, I would talk to him about how to remain a gentleman regardless of his frustration, and I would have him apologize for the way he turned down her offer. The family connection changes the dynamic, not to mention there is a valuable lesson to be learned about burning bridges. The kids are only 15, he may not be interested in his wife's BFF's awkward teenage daughter now, but who knows what the future holds. In 6 years, when they are both home from college and she is an absolute knockout, an adult, and completely unrecognizable from the girl he embarrassed, he may regret the way he handled the situation. And if she's being bullied, why wouldn't he stick up for her? If nothing else, she is like a cousin or a close family friend, and your son should learn to stand up for those in his close circle. He doesn't have an obligation to do so, no one has an obligation to be civil or compassionate, but that is the type of young man I'd want to be raising. Ops response. I am usually in favor of that type of viewpoint. The issue here is that virtually every considerate act my son has taken towards her over the last 2 years has only invited more requests and pushiness from her about dating. My son has a generally overly accommodating personality. This is really the first time since he was little that he has pushed back with force. I think it is necessary to stand firm here.
Hey guys, real quick, I hope you're enjoying the story. Don't forget to subscribe, it would really help the page. Thanks for supporting.
3 weeks later. Given the events of the past couple of weeks, I thought I would provide an update. My wife did not attend the Halloween party. I took my son and his friend, and they had a great time. Unfortunately, we only came in fourth in the couple's costume voting. After the party, tensions with my wife died down considerably. She still felt that what I did was wrong, but she adopted a what is done attitude. The bullying at school has intensified. Apparently, my wife's best friend's daughter confronted the girl my son took to the Halloween party. That escalated the bullying from other girls, and two factions have formed among the girls in 2 grades over this, which has gotten out of hand. Some accusations have been thrown around about my son cheating by various girls. However, my son has remained unbothered because all his truly good friends know the truth. Last Friday, we received a call from the school requesting a meeting with us about the situation since my son was considered the source, their words, not mine, of the issues. We met with some of the administration and one of the teachers on Tuesday. They wanted my son to help the situation by defending my wife's best friend's daughter to their classmates. He refused and spoke extensively about her harassing behavior over the past 2 years. They pushed back against his description of her conduct, but we ended the meeting with my son promising to provide a list of her harassment over the past 2 years. On Tuesday evening, my son prepared the list and showed it to my wife and me. When my wife saw the list, it was like scales fell from her eyes. She became emotional, apologized to our son, apologized to me, and we had a heartfelt group hug. She is now 100% on our side. She asked our son if she could share the list with her best friend, and he agreed. However, my wife's best friend doubled down in response. As a result, my wife has decided to go low contact for the time being. On Wednesday, we took the list to the school. Since it is a private school with a strict code of conduct for students both in and out of school, there is a possibility that my wife's best friend's daughter may face some type of punishment for her behavior. I took my son out of school for the day, and we spent the day together. I just dropped him back off at school today. So, this is the update. Edit. I wanted to add something I mentioned in the comments. My mom was a counselor for years. One thing she taught me is that repentance and forgiveness are not events but processes. She also emphasized that in order for a relationship to be restored, there must first be repentance from the wrongdoer. In light of that, a practice she introduced to our family was writing letters when one of us caused harm to another. The letter includes, in detail, 1. The wrong the person has committed, 2. The resulting harm that was done, 3. The immediate actions that will be taken to mitigate the harm, and 4. The long-term actions being taken to mitigate the harm and ensure the action is not repeated. My wife is currently working on her letter. The person who receives the letter can respond and request additional actions to address the harm. My wife understands that she is only at the beginning of the process and that it will take time. Relevant comments. Commenter. I'm really glad your wife was able to come to her senses and understand your son's point of view better. It sucks that her best friend is refusing to understand and put a stop to her kid. She shouldn't be bullied by others like this, but unfortunately, she escalated the situation worse and worse. I really hope your son doesn't get caught up in more drama, and now it's just up to those two to accept responsibility and calm down. How's your wife handling going low contact with her BFF? Ops response. My wife told her best friend that until she is willing to apologize to us, she should not contact us unless it is an emergency or related to the Parents Association, basically, a quasi-PTA for the school, business. Commenter. I'd love to see the son's breakdown of the harassment that finally swayed his mother. Ops response. One incident that was particularly salient for my wife is something that happened during spring break 2023. She had apparently forgotten about it. Both our families went away and spent spring break together in Phoenix. One night, we planned for all the kids to go out while as parents were going to have a PJ date night at our Airbnb. My son didn't want to go out, so the youngest daughter stayed as well. She took a bunch of pictures and posted them to social media, I think it was Instagram. She captioned it, date night. Apparently, a bunch of people at school saw it and called my son. He demanded that she take it down, and she did. Our son told us when we got back, but my wife had forgotten about this incident. Commenter. Anyone else betting that mom will be a miserable mother-in-law? Someone like that will probably just let her son marry her fixation of an ideal person. My condolences to whoever ends up in a relationship with this boy because his father, the op, may be a great and excellent person, but as long as this mother is around, that daughter-in-law's life will be hell. Op's response. Okay, I feel I need to defend my wife here. While the past month has been terrible, this is not her general disposition toward our son or other girls he has expressed interest in. A girl moved in a few houses down this past summer, and when she waved at my son, he displayed all the 15-year-old boy nervousness that are telltale signs of a crush. So, my wife went to the store, bought muffins, and made our son go over there with them as a housewarming present and introduce himself. So, I do not think my wife is hung up on this idea to the extent that she would discourage him from marrying or being with anyone else. 2 months later. This will be the final update. After everything that happened with the school last semester, my wife's best friend decided to remove her daughter from the school, and she is now attending the local public school. A week ago, my son received an email from the daughter apologizing for everything that occurred last semester and asking if they could remain friends. Apparently, her dad finally sat her down and explained how everything she did would look from a guy's perspective. My son wrote back and said that while he accepted the apology, he thinks it's best to keep his distance. He wished her luck at the new school. My wife's best friend still insists that my son should apologize to her daughter. My wife has said, in no uncertain terms, that crap isn't happening. A few more kids have been disciplined by the school since my last post, but things have calmed down on that front. We are doing family counseling, and it has been going well. That is all. This is the final update. Top 2 comments. Commenter. The sad thing is, if it were Op's son harassing the wife's friend's daughter, things probably wouldn't have gone as far as they did without the police getting involved. I'm glad Op's wife and the wife's, now former, friend's husband ended up siding with Op's son and explained to the daughter how and why her behavior was inappropriate. At least she learned her lesson, unlike her mother. Commenter. Wife's friend knew deep down that the situation was out of hand but didn't have the wherewithal to come back down to reality, let alone apologize. I think she's the real villain of the story. She influences the child and doubles down at every opportunity.